Tundra Media presents The Mayor Helps, with the Mayor of Victoria, British Columbia, Lisa Helps. Have your say. Send your questions and comments to themayorhelps.com. They could be included in next week's
Victoria
show.
Businesses to know that we're working.
And now, here's your host, from beautiful Victoria, British Columbia, Dave Hatt.
Thanks, Jerry. My name is Dave Hatt, and I'm here with Lisa Helps, the Mayor of Victoria. And we are running this episode of our podcast called themayorhelps.com. And the idea is that we want to chat with Lisa Helps. She's doing a heck of a lot of good work for the city and want to make sure that we have connections coast to coast, because we are all in this together as it comes to relating to battling COVID-19 and getting out on the other side. And I'm interested right now actually in finding out, as the mayor of a major city in this country, what's your life been like? You've obviously had to pivot like the rest of us. Are your days longer? Are you busier? What's going on with you?
It's really interesting. Yeah, my days were already long. Like part of the job of being a mayor is you just have long days. But I would say my days are very differently shaped. There are no speaking engagements. There are no community meetings. There are no chamber mixers. There's no activity to speak of, which is very, very strange, because being out and in the community is something that I really enjoy doing, and something that's been kind of part of my dailiness for the past 5 years since I was elected. So I would say my days are still long, but the content of them has changed. What's been really interesting, and I think we're starting to get into some kind of new normal here a little bit, was that the first 4.5 weeks were really about firefighting, crisis mode, crisis management, shutting recreation centers, shutting our pool, shutting City Hall, making sure our staff had all the PPE they need, all those things that you would imagine in an emergency. And then, of course, making sure that the business community feels heard, that there's a channel for them to communicate directly with City Hall, getting a resource page up for businesses. So, that's been part of the focus. And then obviously, just like every other major city in Canada, when the Prime Minister says to everyone, stay at home, you see very quickly the people who have no home to stay in. So we've been really working through the situation with homelessness over the past many weeks. So it's been busy. I would say not shorter days, just very different days.
You touched on the homelessness issue, and we are a fairly small city physically. If you've had the right number of beers, you can walk from one end to the other, no problem. But per capita, where do we sit in terms of the rest of the country for the
that's a great question. I don't know the answer, but I will get the answer, just because I'm actually very interested in that. It's a very good question. The complicated factor for Victoria is that we did a census last week. The provincial government has taken significant leadership. They've committed. There are 2 encampments that sprung up as a result of shelters closing because of COVID, and they're very densely packed and basically perfect environments for COVID to spread, which is why the province took action on Saturday, is going to get hotel and motel rooms and indoor sheltering options for everybody staying outside. And so there was a census done of those 2 encampments, who's there and what do they need. And the total number of people in both of those encampments was 360. And we know that there are people still out in other parks that weren't counted. And we know for sure that those 360 people come from across the region and maybe in some cases across Vancouver Island. But because we're the downtown, we're where the services are, we attract more people here. So it'll be interesting. I want to know the numbers per capita for Victoria, but also then the numbers per capita spread out over the capital region.
It is a fascinating thing, because my partner on this, Jerry, I sent him a video clip. We took a video clip down Pandora Street of all the tents, and he's lived right downtown Toronto for decades, and he was blown away by the number of homeless people that are in our tiny little city. Relatively.
Yeah. I mean, we're a 20 square kilometer handkerchief of land. Like we're, compared to Toronto, we're, geographically, obviously population, we're tiny. And so in Toronto and other larger cities, there's more places for people to spread out, for people to go and that aren't so visible. So that is one of the challenges of being a large and small city at the same time.
Yeah, it's very interesting seeing it walking and driving around town. That's for sure. So now, one last question, and I'll let you go out of respect for your time. So, what are you doing to keep a level head, to stay calm? Because this, as you mentioned, this was crisis. So immediately it's go a million miles an hour. What's going on? So then, what are you doing to not lose your cool, to not take on the burden of all the stress of all these small business owners, of all the homeless people, of all the people that are, out of school, all these different things?
Yeah, it's a great question. This has been the most stressful period of my entire life, without question. But I know, and we've had other challenges through the years here that I've been mayor, and I know that my role is to remain calm, to remain measured, to remain thoughtful. Because if the mayor can't keep a level head, I think that sends a really poor sign to the rest of the community. So I've been, rather than biking to work, which I usually do, I've been walking back and forth to City Hall and home. That gives me more time to clear my head. I had also, because I've been going home a little bit later than usual, it also gives me time to connect with people as I'm walking home. So there are a lot of neighbors who are out on their front stoops, and so stop and chat, and that's been really nourishing. And they don't want to talk about what's happening at City Hall. They just want to kind of shoot the shit and talk with the mayor. So that's been good. So walking, talking with people, trying to get enough sleep, although that's hard. The nights have stretched on. There's just because I'm home, there's still a lot of texts and emails that need answering. But I think sleeping, eating well, walking, fresh air, and connections with others where possible, and being out in my garden.
Yeah, it certainly brings the importance of community. What you get it where you can at this particular moment that we're living in, for sure. Well, thank you for your time. This is the first segment in the mayorhelps.com, and we're looking forward to our next segment, which will be a question and answer period. And thank you for your time, Lisa, and we'll chat with you on the other side.
Have your say. Send your questions and comments to the mayorhelps.com. They could be included in next week's show.
All right, welcome to the question and answer, the Q&A portion of the Mayor Helps podcast today. And what we're doing is we're taking this opportunity to have the people of Victoria ask the mayor a question. And we're doing it through our website, which is themayorhelps.com. Submit your email, your first name, your last name, and your email and your question. And if you're lucky enough, we'll select you to be on a Zoom meeting like this with the mayor. And today we've got David. I'm not even going to try and pronounce your last name, the owner of Wine Stage Bar. David, maybe you could pronounce your last name and we can make sure your audio is working. How you doing?
Hey, good. How you doing?
Great.
My name is David Listage.
I was standing outside his restaurant / shop on Sunday afternoon. We went in and got some good stuff.
Yeah. I think you've been in for dinner a couple times too.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the restaurant for sure. So here's a serious plug, because we're all about business. The Wine Stage Bar in Fernwood in Victoria. David, go ahead with your question.
One of the main issues is a lack of laboratories, small laboratories that the farmers can get to process their animals and then get them back to us at the restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I was just wondering, is it possible that the city can somehow, or the three municipalities work together to somehow get some of these laboratories back up and running? Because I think we're down to 2, maybe 3 of them at the moment.
Yeah, so not the city can't, but the good news, and I'm not even sure if you're aware of this, the South Island Prosperity Partnership, which is the regional economic development agency, 11 municipalities belong to it, all 3 post-secondaries, 10 First Nations, probably about 25 private sector members. They're creating a rising economy task force and a whole bunch, I think 12 different subcommittees, and one is on agriculture. So That's a key concern for our region, particularly in terms of the supply chain disruptions that we've seen. So if you want, I don't know if I'm obviously not on the agricultural subcommittee. I'm on the main task force and then the advocacy subcommittee. But that is the opportunity to have these exact conversations, and it's a very, very live and important conversation. The Prosperity Partnership has agriculture as one of its key tenets, particularly for the members up on the peninsula. So the answer is yes, that is under consideration, and there's probably a way for you to tap into that.
Thanks, David. I really appreciate your time. I appreciate, as a restaurateur, getting up at 8 in the morning. I'm sure you're up early, but maybe not quite this early. Thank you very much. I appreciate being actually our first guest on The Mayor Helps.
That's awesome. It was a pleasure for sure.
Thanks. Bye.
Look forward to seeing your restaurant. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
Okay, so up next, we've got Phil Bissett-Cavanero.
Well, good morning, Mayor Lisa Helps. Great to have you on a call like this during this pandemic, and great for being open. And I know you're never one to shy away from tough decisions, things that are happening. So, just from the small business community, wonderful to be able to ask a couple of questions. The first is more just broad and what you guys are having to deal with at council. And we hear from Vancouver on, sustainability and potential bankruptcy and things. How's our books? How are things holding up, financially for Victoria?
I'm so glad you asked that question. I was quite alarmed to hear Mayor Stewart talking about bankruptcy. That may be the situation that they're in, but I think it's probably a very disturbing signal to all businesses to hear their mayor standing up and saying we could go bankrupt. So in Victoria, we're in good shape. I was elected in 2014, and since that time, we've been building up our reserves very, very adequately. The movement to build reserves obviously was underway before I was elected. We've got a very fiscally prudent chief financial officer here, but we've substantially built our reserves over the past 5 years. And so we're in very good shape. We did take a sharp pencil to the budget. We've cut $22 million in capital spending out of this year's budget, as well as $1.5 million in operational spending. We've even though we've been doing a good job with reserves, we were supposed to put $12 million directly from taxation into reserves this year. We reduced that amount by $4.6 million so that we could have a 0% tax increase. We wanted to signal to the residential and business taxpayers that we're all in this together and we're going to do our part. So we're in good shape. No worries about bankruptcy here, and we've done everything we can with the fiscal room we have to delay property tax payment dates, to spread the penalty which we have to charge according to the province over a longer period of time. We've made utility bills due now 90 days after they're received rather than 45 days. So because we have some fiscal room, because we've been prudent over the past many years, we're in good shape. So no worries here.
Thanks again for being so open. I'm not sure if I have a moment for another question there, Dave, or anything, but
it's like radio here, Phil. What do you think? You know what? Give it. You're too good. The background is too fabulous, and your question. Go for it.
Funny. Just, I guess, from your guys' talks around council, what's your main focus, or what's the biggest turning point, or maybe thing that you're looking for, and something that you can support with confidence that you're trying to put through, or to move forward on? Like, what's the biggest concern, and what are you trying to do to go forward here?
Well, here's a sneak peek. This is Victoria 3.0. This is our economic action plan. It was ready to go before COVID, but thankfully it didn't get to council quite yet. So we're revising it. It's got a new subtitle. So it was originally Victoria 3.0, pivoting to a higher value economy 2020 to 2041. So it's a long-term economic action plan for the city, but we've renamed it Victoria 3.0, Recovery, Reinvention, and Resilience. So I've been meeting twice weekly with business leaders for the last 5 weeks. We've been through this document with them with a fine-tooth comb, what needs to be changed, what needs to be added. So my job now, we've finished up the input. I'm going to rewrite, in a sense, the sections of the document, and that's going to be our recovery and reinvention strategy. And there's some really good stuff in there, both in terms of supporting small business to recover, get ready for a potential second wave, but also how do we reinvent Victoria's economy in a way that prepares us better long term for future instances like this, and for better resilience.
Terrific. Well, thanks
Yeah.
so much again for being open during such a difficult time. I think leaders that are going to be proactive, trying to think outside the box is how we're going to get there. So
Absolutely.
thank you so much. Great to see you again, Mayor Helps, and thanks, Dave, for working away and putting this together.
Thanks, Phil. And nothing like starting a business during a COVID crisis, right? Take care.
Yeah.
We'll chat soon.
Yeah. All the best, you guys.
All right, Mayor Helps. We have one write-in question, and it is from Dominic Monet, and he is the operations manager at the Huntington Manor, one of the larger hotels downtown. His question is, do you foresee any additional support from the city for the tourism industry once we've reopened? Because, we live in a tourist town. Could you share examples, perhaps, of what the support might look like?
Sure. And then he also asked another question: will business landlords receive any rent subsidy the way residential ones have? We have several commercial tenants who cannot pay their rent. So let's go with the tourism one first. The city has been working hard with Destination Greater Victoria and the airport and everyone involved in tourism through this entire process to figure out how we can be supportive. One of the main things that we have been able to do, and I think this is a good news story, although not immediate, obviously there were a lot of conferences at the Victoria Conference Centre that were cancelled. None of those conferences have been lost, to my knowledge. They've simply been rebooked for a future date. So I think that's a little bit of good news on the horizon. In terms of tourism businesses in particular, the strategy that I just flashed up on the screen, the Action Plan Victoria 3.0, it doesn't target tourism specifically, but it targets downtown and small business more generally. So I think the actions in there will go to support all small businesses. If Dominic has ideas about what specifically the city could do to support tourism specifically, totally open to that. But I think our approach is looking at the business community as a whole, particularly the hard-hit restaurateurs and retailers, hoteliers, to see what we can do generally, but open to ideas.
Terrific. That's great. And now the other question that he did ask about commercial rents, I thought you'd kind of touched on it with Phil, indicating that as the city, you don't have a lot of leeway based on the charter.
Yeah, but it seems, I just wanted to make sure that Dominic is aware that the federal government did announce a rent subsidy for commercial tenants up to 75% of rent. So I'd encourage him and anyone else to look that up. It was just announced by the Prime Minister last week. It will cover rents for April, May, and June, up to 75% for commercial landowners who can then obviously pass those savings on to their tenants. So it's not clear how the program is going to work, but that's something that myself and the Downtown Victoria Business Association, the Chamber, Think Local First, and Community Microlending did very strong advocacy on it, both the federal and provincial government. So that is, there is going to be rent relief for commercial businesses, commercial landowners.
Yeah, as somebody who is a commercial tenant, it's going to be interesting to see how it rolls out, because as Phil touched on, it's something that the landlord has to have buy-in. So I haven't even had an opportunity to approach my landlord. But my business, the wet cleaner, the non-toxic dry cleaner, we're down almost 90%. So
yeah,
it's brutal. But
I sent you a couple jackets yesterday or 2 days ago.
I noticed. Thank you very much. Yeah. So let's. I think that probably wraps up what we've got for our first Q&A section. I think it went really well. And what we're going to do is ask anybody that's listening or viewing, please go to themayorhelps.com, put your first and last name in your email. It's all you got to do, and submit your question that way. And we can connect you. We'll be doing these on a weekly basis. So we'll chat with you and hook you up through the Zoom meeting, and you can ask your question of the mayor.
Thanks for joining The Mayor Helps on Tundra Media. If you enjoyed the show, please like, share, and subscribe. And visit themayorhelps.com to submit your questions to the show.